Fundamentally, I think one of the biggest mistakes that parents make when they think about their child's hockey development is to only focus on and treat it as though it's development for a sport. When really, that sport is simply a vehicle that opens many doors for the rest of their life. And we see it all the time. We talk about it all the time. Well, it shapes their character. It builds persistence. It builds determination. They find out who they really are when it comes to work ethic. They have all these fancy terms. But in my experience, it goes even deeper than that, because there are so many elements from high-level sport that map and mirror to skills that we need for life, career, and relationships. Right? Think about it. Conflict with your teammates is going to be very similar to conflict with your friends, conflict with your coaches, right? Or disagreements with your coaches. Trying to understand your coach's point of view if you don't necessarily agree is going to be a similar dynamic to future managers, bosses, and potentially spouses. Of course, there's the ability to not give up when it gets hard. Learning that the feeling of wanting to quit is simply a signal and not an alarm. But beyond all of these, say, character traits and soft skills, there's so much more. When we think about talking to our future coaches, talking to scouts, mapping out opportunities, setting goals, it's very much like setting a business plan, right? Planning a budget for hockey is like planning a budget for the household, right? Outreach to coaches, conversations with prospective coaches, very much like outreach for careers, jobs, applying for positions, looking for funding. Outreach to sponsors, very much like grant applications, whether that's both written or spoken, right? There are so many parallels. The most obvious one that we see is like, of course, there's sales aspect, that competition, trying to beat other people, right? That is very useful when it comes to competing in a workplace where you are in a high pressure situation or a high pressure role, where you literally have leaderboards at your office. I hear so many times, oh, athletes make great salespeople, right? They just have that hunger. Athletes also make great managers because they're great leaders. Athletes also make great parents because they grew up in team environments. They have strong interpersonal skills. Oftentimes, the best athletes are very highly self-aware, very highly empathetic, understanding, able to maintain boundaries. But one of the big things that I found when we talk about privileges, apart from the massive financial benefit of scholarships, financial aid, paid post-secondary education in part or in whole, is that after that education, having the stamp of a student athlete on your resume is literally pass, go, collect $200, here's the interview. The amount of interviews that I sat in, right? And I hold a strong academic record. Over a 4.0 in university, graduated with a science degree, graduated with distinction of an honors degree. The piece of paper is pretty, but one of the first comments in an interview was always, oh, so you played sports in school? Huh, what did that teach you? What did I even go to school for? I could have just played sports the whole time. But the point that I'm making is that when we talk about giving our kids opportunities, that's a massive one. If we think about it, right, we care about the sport for them right now. But what do we want for our kids? We want them to be competent leaders who are able to find their own path, sustain themselves, become high quality members of the community they live in. Sport does all of that. And we can help them with that if we can make them into a student athlete. Because then we're helping them get their first job. Then we're helping them get that promotion. It doesn't feel true until you have lived it. It absolutely is an advantage to be able to say you're a student athlete. Point blank, fight me. Like, companies come into career days, or when we ask them about what they're looking for when they're hiring, so the first thing is like, try and poach as many student athletes as we can for all of the traits and qualities I just mentioned. Like, so yes, scholarship is the goal. College sports, awesome. But a lot of parents think about like that financial benefit of college sports, or the status of saying they have a student athlete or their kid played college. Taking it one step further is you are helping accelerate them with getting their first role, right? You are literally greasing the wheels for them to give them an easier life. And I'm so passionate about this because I lived it, and I don't feel that I necessarily deserved to have the opportunity that I did. I'll be honest about that, but I did. I'm grateful for it. And that's what drives me so hard to want it for others, is because going through minor hockey, I always felt behind. I always felt disadvantaged. I always felt like I was too late to the game, too slow to learn. Nothing was going to go my way. And then I got lucky. I made, a rep team. I got lucky. I made a AAA team and then a junior team, and then played 3 years of junior, developed there, and then got the scholarship. And it was getting that scholarship and then all of the opportunities that cascaded from that in terms of what I learned about myself in the 5 years I went to university, and then the amount of opportunities that I had afterwards. It was like, if there is one goal, completely money aside, it is giving people the opportunity to be a student athlete. So when we think about the development for our children, let's not mistake that it is only development for that sport. It's very important that we consider how we are shaping them as people, as leaders, and as athletes, and how we are broadening the horizon for their opportunity so that they can become a student athlete in the future or beyond. It's certainly one of the first times I've recognized such outright and open privilege. And I know that I come from a first world country. I mean, depending on all of your other beliefs about my demographic, you may say, well, I've had plenty of privilege my whole life. Sure, yes, that's not what this conversation is about. Being a student athlete was the first time that I was exposed to it, where people were like, you're a student athlete, here, I'm going to give you this. Oh, you played sports? Take this. Where people just hand you things because of that stamp and all of the associations that come with it. So to wrap this up, sports is not just about sports. The moniker we always use is that hockey is just a vehicle to build leaders for life. And the goal is definitely college athletics, the opportunity to be a student athlete, for many more reasons about opportunity than just the financial scholarship that we get so fixated on. That's it for this video. Always glad to have you here. Make sure to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss our next one. I'll see you in the next video.